Hello and good afternoon to all our viewers and welcome. Como estai? Bonjour, como ça va? Vitam jasamak. Namaste. Aap kaise hai? Assalamu alaikum. Om Sai Ram. Vanakkam. Como estás? Hola. Como vas? Makai? Twai. Etiesen? Sabona. Unjani. Salong. Hola. Goedemiddag. Hello, everyone. My name is Dhiren Mohan. I am your host for today. Welcome to the Elsevier book publishing process and Elsevier author workshop. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you from across the globe to our online webinar. For all of you who have joined across the world, welcome to our first Africa book publishing process. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone and hope and pray that everyone is safe in today's times that we live in, which have been unprecedented in the modern era. Before we go on, I would like to go through the agenda of the meeting for today and the online publication book workshop. The agenda would be as follows. We would do a brief COVID update, which will show you the resource links that we have available from Elsevier. Thereafter, a quick 5 to 10 minutes on the ebook resources, which we also have available to you, present and past ScienceDirect customers. Thereafter, our main event. We will welcome our guest speaker, and I will do a brief introduction of all our speakers at the end of this agenda. Following the presentation by Mary, who is our guest speaker from the USA, we will be taking questions from the audience. Thereafter, once we have commenced and completed the questions, we will then show you how to download this presentation together with your certificate and do a wrap up and close. We hope to achieve all of this in the space of the next 2 hours. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this online webinar. Just some few housekeeping rules. Kindly note that all the participants are presently and will be muted. We encourage you to please submit your questions in the inbox, which are monitored by panelists and presenters, and is being currently streamed live on YouTube together with a Zoom. The recording of this presentation can be found on YouTube on the Elsevier Africa channel within the next 48 hours of the event being completed. The presentation will be uploaded onto the Research Academy. A link will be shared at the end of this presentation, together with the code to download your presentation that you require, together with the certification. I would now like to introduce our speakers. But before I do, I think it's appropriate just to share with some of you who may not know Elsevier the products that we offer. And Elsevier will help you through your knowledge cycle, through your publishing of a journal, of a book, as we may have various products that could offer you this. Scopus, ScienceDirect, as a number of you will know this product very well, Clinical Key, Mendeley, SciVal, and various journals, of course, together with the books that we have, either major reference works, single titles, encyclopedias, and various others. However, today we are here to listen to Mary Masucci. Mary Masucci, we welcome her from the USA. Mary has a master's degree in publishing from the George Washington University in the USA. Currently, she's a publisher in translational medicine for Elsevier. Mary has over 20 years of publishing experience, spanning newspapers, commercial printing, book, and digital content. We have mentioned that the inbox and the Q&As are being monitored. We have a lead panelist on Zoom who will be monitoring this, and her name is Christina Gifford. She's present an Acquis Decisions editor in material science and engineering at Elsevier, and is also based in the USA. We also welcome Christina as well. Our YouTube channel is being also watched by a panelist. His name is Khalid, and he's currently based in Egypt and also part of the Elsevier customer consultant team. Our first speaker. It gives me a great privilege to welcome someone who I know very closely. Her name is Dineshri. She will be sharing with you today an overview of information of which Elsevier has to offer in terms of the links for this COVID-19 period and resources. Dineshri is currently a customer consultant for ScienceDirect in Sub-Saharan Africa, together with also Scopus and Mendeley. She is based in South Africa, and her email address is at the bottom of the page. I will now like to welcome Dineshri and ask her to please share her slides, and I will stop sharing and chat to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dhiren, for that welcome. I will begin sharing my screen now. Okay. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. My name is Dineshri. I'm the customer consultant for Elsevier. I'm going to take you through a few things very quickly about the Researcher Academy, the ScienceDirect platform and remote access options, Elsevier's Coronavirus Information Center, finding ebooks on ScienceDirect, and how to get help. Some of the agenda points that I will be discussing today are a follow-on from our previous webinar, which was on article publishing. We hosted that on the 1st of June. And to all those who are asking for a recording of that presentation, it is available on our YouTube channel. So please follow Elsevier Africa on YouTube and you'll be able to see that webinar if you were not able to attend. To start things off, I'm going to speak about the Researcher Academy. The Research Academy is a free resource containing e-learning modules developed by global experts. The website to access it is www.researcheracademy.com. If you have an existing Elsevier account, you can log on with your credentials, and if not, you'll be prompted to create an account. Once you have access to the Researcher Academy, you will be able to access modules about research process and publishing, career guidance and advice, as well as research news on our blog. So whether you are interested in writing a journal article or book, learning how to conduct peer review for high-impact journals, understanding research and publishing ethics, or preparing successful grant applications, the Researcher Academy has the resources to assist. We recognize that dedicated training takes time and effort, and we believe that successful researchers should be recognized for this. For each interactive training module or online seminar that you complete, your work will be recognized with an awarded certificate from Elsevier. So how will I know if I'm activated for remote access or not? We've been speaking about this a lot in the webinars that we've been hosting, and we received a lot of questions in our previous webinar about users not being able to access their content, or as we refer to it, their entitlements. The reason for this, in most cases, is because they are not accessing ScienceDirect via the correct channels. If you are accessing ScienceDirect without it recognizing you as part of your institution, then you'll only have access to the open access content, which is about 900,000 articles. ScienceDirect hosts about 2,500 journals and around 39,000 ebooks. Each customer has access to a particular amount of content based on their subscription to the content. Displayed on your screen is an example of logging into ScienceDirect in a way that does not tell ScienceDirect that you are part of a particular university. Firstly, it says brought to you by blank. So it should be displaying your university name here. And secondly, it's asking you to get access to an article or book that you know that you have access to via your university subscription. So to ensure that you are logging on to ScienceDirect correctly and you have access to your correct entitlements, please ask your librarian or administrator about how you should be accessing ScienceDirect. Each university has different options in place to support researchers who are working remotely. Some universities would allow you access via the university portal, which means that you would first need to log into that portal and then log into ScienceDirect so that it can recognize you as part of your organization. And there are other methods. Another popular method is by email domain, which means that you are recognized by ScienceDirect by your institutional email address. For more information, you'll be able to click on this link as we will share a copy of this presentation with you. And you can find out the other remote access options available to you. So talking about the Coronavirus Information Hub, Elsevier has set up this information hub to support research about the coronavirus. To access Elsevier's novel Coronavirus Information Center, you simply need to log on to ScienceDirect and click on the button Visit the Information Center. This will take you to Elsevier's free health and medical research on the novel coronavirus, and this includes access to book chapters and more than 28,000 free articles. We also received a lot of questions about how to find books on ScienceDirect. So once you log on to the platform, you simply need to select Journals and Books. It will then take you to the full list of journals and books on ScienceDirect. And as I explained earlier, it depends on your university's entitlements, what you have access to. So you can either search for the book if you know the title, or you can refine the list by subject area and lower down by access type. So this would give you access to the subscriptions as per your university entitlements. Yesterday, we received on the 1st of June, we received questions about the subject area coverage of ScienceDirect. A lot of people assuming that ScienceDirect is only covering books and journals on physical science, chemistry, but we are covering all the sciences. So you have content from physical science and engineering, covering chemistry, earth and planetary sciences, engineering, material sciences, mathematics, physics, and astronomy. You also have content from life sciences, agricultural and biological sciences, environmental sciences, biochemistry, immunology, neuroscience. Information from health sciences, medicine and dentistry, nursing, pharmacology, pharmaceutical sciences, veterinary sciences, and social sciences. A lot of questions came through about is there any content from law, from social sciences? Yes, there is. It's under social sciences and humanities. You have content on arts and humanities, psychology, social sciences, economics, business management, and the list goes on. So you just need to be able to filter the list for what you are looking for. And if ever you need help, when you logged on to ScienceDirect, you simply click on the little question mark next to your name and scroll all the way to the bottom of the page where you've got two options. You can email your query through to our support team, or you can make use of the live chat facility where you can chat to an agent and get an answer to your query. So those are the different ways you can use ScienceDirect to get your content as well as to get support. With that, I thank you, and I'm going to hand back over to our presenter, Thiren Mohan, who is going to introduce the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Dineshri, for that insight. That was very welcome, and I'm sure everyone learned about how to access the content. So our next speaker I would like to introduce is Natalia Garcia. Natalia is a customer engagement consultant at Elsevier in research reference for ebooks across the EMEA region. She's presently based in the Netherlands, and she will enlighten us today on co-usage, on the textbooks which are available as well on the ScienceDirect platform. I would now like to ask Natalia to please share her screen and begin her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Theron. I will start sharing my screen right now. All right. All right. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. I am a customer consultant for ebooks for various regions of the world. Today, I am going to share with you our impact insights about our platform, ScienceDirect, co-usage, ScienceDirect topic pages, the free access to book chapters due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the textbooks on ScienceDirect. In Elsevier, we remain committed to offering the highest research quality above the industry average across our entire portfolio of solutions. As you can see, we are in 18% as the journal article output out of global research, and 16.5, the average number of citations per book, is the highest in the industry. Today's researchers have brought multidisciplinary workflows to connect the dots and see the big picture. They need access to reliable interdisciplinary research using a wide range of content types. With the co-usage, as you can see in the slide that I am showing, we can clearly see the path of researchers moving across subject areas and across content types. In this way, ScienceDirect is uniquely positioned to provide seamless access across content and topics to answer user needs. Researchers' behavior demonstrates the need for interdisciplinary research, more prevalent than ever. In this way, they use reference books and journals in conjunction to get the full picture of a subject. Users are only getting part of the answer if they only have access to journal content. Reason why ScienceDirect is uniquely positioned to offer seamless access to both content, books and journals. We are aware that researchers at every stage of their scientific careers encounter unknown terms and concepts and require background and contextual knowledge to progress. We understand that finding one's path through a literature search can be overwhelming. That is why we created ScienceDirect Topics. Our free topic pages provide readers with a comprehensive database of reliable background and contextual knowledge, making it easy to get up to speed with new and unfamiliar concepts. They connect you to summarize knowledge and act as a discovery tool for further trusted reading, making this the ideal environment for intuitive learning and for sparking your creativity. The frequent use of topic pages on ScienceDirect alongside journal articles demonstrates how essential it is for content to be available from a mixture of resources, as journals, books, and reference works, for example. In order for your patrons to successfully conduct research, master their coursework, or plan their teaching materials. Topic pages transform ScienceDirect from a static content warehouse to a database. By using advanced technology means we can unlock the full power of ScienceDirect platform, creating researcher efficiencies and enabling serendipitous discovery across the platform, regardless of the content type. Going back to what my colleague Dennis Shuri mentioned, we have the Novel Corona Resource Directory. This is to support the extraordinary efforts of the health and research communities combating coronavirus. That's why we have created a range of free resources, including textbooks, evidence-based clinical guidance, and more than 20,000 research articles to read, download, and data mine. At this resource center, you can have free access to 27,000 coronavirus articles on ScienceDirect. Over here, you can see some examples of book chapters that are related to the coronavirus for you to access freely. Finally, my presentation, I would like to share with you the textbooks on ScienceDirect. During this time of uncertainty, Elsevier is dedicated to providing access and support to our customers all around the world. Due to this situation, we have made all textbooks freely accessible to ScienceDirect customers to support students and lecturers whose classes have moved from campus to online. We are pleased to announce that the free access to the textbooks to ScienceDirect customers will be extended through August 31st, 2020. This will help universities provide resources for faculty and students through this pandemic. Our primary focus is on ensuring access in support of remote learning. In this slide, you could access directly to the content list of the textbooks and download directly the content with all the information about every single title. With not further to say, Theron? Oh, sorry. Over here also, I am sharing you some links for accessing guidance and tutorials for remote access for your institutions. Thank you very much. I am Natalia Garcia. If you would like to make any contact with me, I leave you my email contact. And now, for further, Theron, I leave you for presentation of our guest speaker.
Thank you, Natalia, and thank you very much for that overview. So ladies and gentlemen, there we go. We have 256 textbooks to access on the Elsevier ScienceDirect platform for those that are looking for information, which is available until the 31st of August. But I think our speaker now needs to take the floor. Her name is Stacy Masucci. Like I've mentioned, for all the people who have just joined, since the beginning, we can see that the numbers have grown exponentially and is still growing as I'm speaking. So Stacy is all the way from the USA. She's currently working for Elsevier. She's a publisher in translational medicine. As I've mentioned before, Stacy has a master's degree in publishing from the George Washington University. She currently works as Elsevier as a lead in international team of acquisitions in editors that research, acquire, develop, and publish research in different Elsevier books under the Elsevier academic imprint press for over 16 different disciplines. So it's a very broad foundational knowledge she brings to the table. So I would now like to welcome Stacy and ask her to kindly share her screen and take over for the next hour, please. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining this call today. I know it's kind of a crazy time in the world, and I appreciate that you're here today to learn about book publication. So we're going to jump into it. The talk that I'm going to cover today is a topic that I have dedicated my entire career to, the publication of books. I'm going to cover why it's important to publish books in today's day and age, the synergy between book and journal content. I'm going to talk about the transformation of the book, including a look into ScienceDirect and its platform. I'm going to then cover the content acquisition strategy, from its data-driven start through finding the right author. Finally, I'm going to cover the entire book publishing cycle, from what makes a good book, from the proposal through production, publication, and then into marketing. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Why publish books? Some of you might be sitting there and wondering why Elsevier would even hold a session on books. After all, aren't books old-fashioned? You know, the printing of books is a 15th century technology from 1440. And if you do a Google search of "is the print book dead?" you're going to find over 1 million articles that debate that very topic. But I'm here today to tell you that there has never been a more exciting and important time to be involved in the writing of books. And to understand this, I'm going to need to explain a bit. We're going to start with the differences between journal and book content. Books and journals provide very different types of content, but it is for this very reason that they are fundamentally interlinked. Article content gives you that depth in a growing discipline. It's specialized knowledge in a distinct area and has a very, very narrow focus that dives down into that area. Its extreme depth gives coverage of that area. And it also has the very latest research and newest results. All of this is so important to researchers, students, and academics. Book content, on the other hand, provides breadth in connecting disciplines together. It gives those broad views of topics. It has expert opinions on foundational areas. And the complexity of differing opinions all within one source. It also has the ability to provide related links and methods and materials. Because of its size, it can contain a lot more than a journal article can. All of these are equally important to researchers, students, and academics. So what does this mean? Very simply, researchers and students and academics need both types of this content to build a complete knowledge around any given topic area. In an Elsevier survey, we found that 78% of researchers do interdisciplinary research. Because of this, they need foundational information for an understanding of areas that are outside of their normal day-to-day research. Books can provide that in the breadth that they have of connecting those disciplines together. In that very same survey, respondents stated that they searched for answers, not types or formats of content. Researchers, academic students, they don't care if the answers to their questions come from a book or a journal article. They just want the answer. This means that they will willingly co-use journals and books together. But what do our current book users say? In a survey of current book users, we asked them what purpose books serve in relation to journal content. When you look at this chart, note that the dark blue on the left-hand side is journals, and the green, purple, and turquoise are all books, but in different phases of their life cycle or format. So 72% use books to gain that fundamental knowledge about the area that I've been talking about. 58% use books to deepen and apply methodologies. 55% use them to broaden their perspective on a particular topic. And 32% use them to learn new information about the field. But in all instances, the point here is that books and journals were both used. All of this data points to the importance of having both types of content available to researchers, students, and academics so they can build comprehensive knowledge around any given topic. The book has come a long way, and I don't just mean from the times of papyrus. So let's go back to that 15th century technology when the printing press was invented in 1440. It was one of the most influential events in the second millennium. But books over the last 20 years have really changed. They're not the same tomes that came off of the Gutenberg press. Books used to be read from cover to cover, start to finish, page 1 all the way to the end, and that's no longer true. After the first e-reader hit the market around 1997, books were no longer the same. People began navigating directly to the parts they wanted. They bookmarked. They only read what they needed and when they needed it. And around that same time, publishers began to see a need to organize data, make it searchable, discoverable, available. And that is where the magic happened. One example of this is Elsevier ScienceDirect. We take our major reference books, journals, ebooks, monographs, serials, our series, our handbooks. We put them all together in one place. And when you apply machine learning and artificial intelligence, people can find the exact answers that they are looking for. Studies have shown that the use of ScienceDirect shortens the research process, saving an average of 47 minutes a day. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I would like to get 47 minutes back in each one of my days. Further, each day users access an average of 79,000 book chapters and 1.2 million journal articles. Here again, we see that co-usage at work. They don't care about format, they don't care about type, they just want answers. And with the technology working behind the scenes, we can provide it. Books on ScienceDirect have the highest relative citation impact among all major book publishers, and Scopus at 2.1. And that's a really nice statistic, but you may be wondering, with all that content out there, how is my book gonna get found? One of the keys to discoverability is the ScienceDirect topic page. Topic pages are generated using automated technology for information extracted. By applying this natural language processing and AI techniques to our published content, we can pull the most relevant snippets of information from reference books and give succinct, summarized pages. They are then directly searchable from ScienceDirect. They're hyperlinked from key terms in journals and book chapters. And best of all, they are freely discoverable through search engines. ScienceDirect currently has 20 distinct domains and over 650,000 hyperlinks to and from the topics pages all across the ScienceDirect platform. It is truly dedicated to discoverability. But let's take a deeper dive into the SD topic page so you can see the layout and links to books and journal content, which is fostering that co-usage. Number 1 at the top of the page shows the heading, which is a standard definition, and this foundational content is extracted from an Elsevier book. Number 2 on the right-hand side of the page shows hyperlinked related terms that are available. This allows the reader to explore the area further. Number 3 at the bottom half of the page shows the list of extracted, most relevant information. This is the type of information that's often found deep within a book, and it includes links to those source books so people can find it. This saves time and provides discoverability to book content that might otherwise have gone unfound. Number 4 at the bottom half of the top of the page shows a link to the full text to the book of the original definition. And finally, number 5, all the way over on the right-hand side, shows a standard web search for this area, and it shows the search engine optimization of the topic page, which in this instance is 3rd on the page. The ability of these pages to pull articles and books together allows for co-usage, and the AI and machine learning behind the scenes is saving time, helping people find the content they need regardless of that type or format. Due to this use of machine learning and AI in book content, books are now used more widely, harnessed more accurately, and accessed faster than ever before. And that is why I truly believe that today is the best time to devote yourself to publishing a book. I want to now just take a moment to ask the audience about their research, and we're going to complete a poll. The question is, do you conduct interdisciplinary research? It does look like there might be a problem with the poll, as the bottom of it says host and panelists cannot vote.
Hi, Stacy. That's just for internal, the panelists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Stacy, while we are waiting for the polling results, I would like to ask Khalid if there's any questions that we may have from the audience that could be fielded from his side, who's actually monitoring the YouTube channel. If there's any questions from Khalid, who's monitoring the YouTube channel at the moment.
So the questions people were asking is, can they access the topic pages for free? And there was a question, is there some sort of open access or freely accessible books in general, or is it only the COVID response and the free textbooks that were made available shortly?
So the first one, ScienceDirect pages are freely accessible. So anyone who has a web browser can access those. The second question about open access is a lot longer. We do have an open access program. So we do books both in open access and with our regular model that I'll be talking about today. If people have additional questions about open access, I'm happy to field those after the session.
Okay, great. We have our polling results back, Stacy, and the question was, do you conduct interdisciplinary research? Almost 80% of our audience said yes, and 20% of the audience said no.
And this is certainly not a surprise. You know, it's a testimony to the importance of the need for co-usage of those journals and books, so we can allow for both the depth in growing disciplines as well as breadth in connecting those disciplines together. So now, next we're going to be moving into the content acquisition strategy. So in order to determine the right areas to publish in, we use data analytics to get a broad perspective of scholarly output. We're going to be looking at funding and research areas, the research trends that are going on, as well as journal usage. And we focus our energy on the growing and well-funded areas. The division I work in, Research and Reference, has done this work and found these 14 areas of concentration. And I show this only as an example of a division that's done the work and found its core areas of acquisitions. It's important to remember that there are many other departments within Elsevier, and they cover areas outside of these. These are the ones that I am familiar with. Once these core areas are established, then it's time to move on and build your book discipline strategy. We start again by using the data and analytics from tools like SciVal and Scopus. We're going to monitor journal activity and scholarly output, looking closely at the article citations and impact by each subject area. We identify impactful authors, institutions, and geographical locations where collaborations are plentiful and research is forthcoming. We also look at subject area research funding to see what's been funded in the past and what's expected to be funded going forward. We analyze book usage trends to identify patterns, and we track any new innovations that have developed in the field. We take this data and use it to analyze our current portfolios of content. This includes identifying any growth areas specific to the portfolio, and this may or may not vary from year to year. We compare our current book offerings with current journal content and identify trends or departures and try to identify why. Finally, we look at any book portfolio gaps we may have and we flag them for new acquisitions. In doing this, we can pull all of this information together and create an annual strategic plan which highlights the signing topics that we want to focus on. The information also informs the acquisitions editor's commissioning plans. These are lists of topic areas and potential authors that they plan to obtain throughout the year. This information also helps us determine the profile of the authors we feel will be most successful in the topic area. All of this leads to a well-designed and successful books program, but that's not all. We also take feedback from our customers. Each year, acquisitions editors are tasked with going out into the field and interviewing current customers and talking to them about the challenges and technologies, the advances and the trends, and how they're using content. Some of the insights that we've gained from these include interdisciplinary is the new norm, and that is not a surprise to anyone on this call. You heard earlier from me that 78% of researchers are doing interdisciplinary research, and in this particular focus group, we found 80%. People are time and resource poor. They don't always have the time and resources to complete all of the tasks that they're capable of doing. And this is why they need tools that help them find what they need faster. Next, visuals are critical for understanding content. And we use this type of feedback to guide our authors to create the content that's going to work for the market. Finally, trust in the quality is important. People want to know that the sources that they're using are trusted. We take all of these themes into our acquisition strategy and into the work we do with our authors in developing titles. So now that you have an understanding of the content acquisition strategy, it's time to look at how we find those authors. Author motivation is a big part of our investigation. In a survey done to over 58,000 current authors, we found that there were some themes that emerged. First, many authors have a genuine interest and passion in their subject area. They want to expand knowledge beyond their core area of study, and they know the importance of interdisciplinary research. They feel the need to contribute more to their area. Authors may also want to fill an unmet need that they've identified or provide a voice to an underrepresented market or topic area that they're passionate about. Prestige. Many people write books to raise their profile and be recognized as a leader and expert in a topic. And after all, isn't it great to be able to talk to someone at work or a party about the role of microbiota in the gastrointestinal pathophysiology and be able to say, oh yeah, I wrote the book on that. And finally, the sheer desire to educate people. Many authors find books the perfect avenue for sharing new methods, ways of teaching, and knowledge with the very next generation of learners. And all of these motivations are good ones, but it's really up to you to determine which motivation is yours. So now that we've discussed the motivation for writing, I'd like to ask another quick poll question. Is the thought of writing an entire book overwhelming?
Stacey, while we're waiting, could I ask one question, please? We're receiving a lot of questions about converting a article into a book. Is it possible? And if you could give a bit of advice about this. A journal article.
A previously published journal article cannot be made into a book. If you want to use something that is already published, it has to be referenced within your book. And that can be done properly and cited properly, and we can work with you on how to do that and how much of that to use. But we do not take previously published material, no matter what format it's in, and then just make it a book.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And perhaps a second question, are there any open access books? Can you publish books under open access?
Yes, we do have an open access books program. So if anyone would like more information about that program, I do not cover it in today's presentation, but I am happy to talk to individuals about it if they are interested. The major difference between open access and regular book publishing is payment. So there is a book processing fee for all open access books. And of course, we have no fees with our regular publishing program. So that's one of the major differences between the two.
Okay, thanks a lot. The polling results are on.
Okay, so the thought of writing an entire book, is it overwhelming? 83% of the people said yes. And this is not a surprise to me, because writing an entire book is absolutely a time commitment. I will not lie about that. And it can be a challenge, but it's a rewarding one. So let's take a little closer look at authorship to show you some of the ways that maybe you can make authoring a little more manageable. The first thing to consider is if you want to author or edit a book. Authoring means that you will write every single word from cover to cover, page 1 to the bitter end. Editing means that you will manage a manuscript, which will have individual chapter contributors. There's some distinct differences between these two workflows, but I'm going to start by highlighting their similarities. Both editors and authors should be known and respected in their field. They should be able to identify a clear market need. This is an understanding of the subject matter and a targeted audience for whom the content is for. They need to plan the scope of the content to ensure all the needs of the market are met. And they are both supported by Elsevier's in-house staff throughout their entire publishing process, which allows them to produce the high quality end product that we're known for. Finally, both are paid by the publisher in the form of a royalty, which is on the percentage of sales. Now let's get into the differences. First, the volume editor. This is the person who's writing every word cover to cover. Volume authors are expected to write at least 1,000 words in about a year's time, and they need to deliver a complete, well-referenced manuscript. That manuscript has to explain the science and how it is applied within the field. It's also important for these volume editors to have interdisciplinary expertise. This allows them to deliver content for readers with varied backgrounds. Volume editor. This is the person who is managing chapter contributors. Volume editors are expected to design the table of contents for the book, and it needs to comprehensively cover the entire subject matter. They need to secure all of the individual chapter authors, and they need to perform the overall scientific editorial review of each individual chapter. And finally, chapter authors. These are the folks that contribute chapters to that volume editor. Chapter authors will work very closely with their volume editor to plan the chapter coverage. They want to make sure they eliminate any overlap between other chapters as well as any gap coverage. They're expected to write between about 7,000 and 10,000 words, and that's in about a 6-month time period. And they have no payment, there is no payment to chapter authors, but also there is no fees to pay. So deciding which of these workflows is going to work best for your time and experience and your capabilities is going to have a huge impact on how successful your authoring experience is. Now that you have your motivation and you know the workflow that's going to work best for you, let's talk about what makes a premium author or editor. First of all, it's important to understand that this varies by field and industry. In certain areas, certain attributes are more heavily weighted than in other fields, and your acquisitions editor can help you determine the right qualifications that are needed in any given area. Generally speaking, however, premium authors and editors are going to have some or all of these. That high quality publication rating with a good H index, good standing at a well-known institution or a company. They should be known for their broad knowledge of the subject area and have the ability to share that knowledge in an interdisciplinary manner. They should have established connections in the field. And this is especially important if they're the editor of a volume and will need to solicit those chapter contributors. They should hold a position in an academic society, and they should have involvement in key related journal boards. So after that list, you're thinking to yourself, who in the world is going to meet all this criteria? And if they did meet all this criteria, how in the world would they have time to even write a book? Well, with that said, I do want to mention that exceptions have and can be made. And I just want to give you a little story about my time when I was an acquisitions editor for the cardiology list at Academic Press. At a conference, I met with an MD, and this is kind of an unusual meeting because generally for these cardiology research books, we want PhDs, but you know, he really wanted to meet. So we got together, and before we got together, I kind of looked him up and I noticed that he didn't hold a leading position in a society. He was a member, he wasn't on any journal boards, and he didn't have a lot of scholarly output. But when I got talking to him, I found that, you know, he really was too busy for those things because he was out there actually performing the procedures. So the more we spoke at the conference, the more his passion for this area and his ease, with which he could teach me these complicated procedures that I had no background in, I started to realize that he was going to make a really great author. I saw those motivations of passion for the area and desire to educate within him, and they just oozed out of him as he was talking. And although he didn't fit our usual model, we developed a solid proposal, got good reviews, and his book was approved. I'm proud to say that that title is still the top-selling Academic Press cardiology title in its 2nd edition, and the author has a 2nd title publishing with us in August of this year on another topic. Truly a success story and doesn't fit this model. So if you don't meet all this criteria, don't worry. Reach out to an acquisitions editor with your idea and get advice on how to develop a plan for publication. Now that you're ready to write, let's take a deep dive into the book publishing cycle. This diagram has the milestones of the book publishing process, and it's going to appear in the upper right-hand corner of the rest of the slides in the deck, and it's going to help you see our progress throughout the workflow. So let's start with writing of the book proposal. The proposal for a book focuses your thoughts and helps guide the publisher. While an outline is going to have contents and organization, a proposal emphasizes the rationale. Why is it being written and for whom? So let's examine some of these important features of a book proposal. Your title, topic, and market need. Your title, it should be succinct and clearly describe the contents of the book to your target audience. Be sure to include all the relevant keywords for the best discoverability. Your topic, it should be clearly defined. You should not only indicate what you are including, but also what you're not including and why. What is the market need for the book and what problem will it solve? Is it meeting an unmet need? Will it focus on a new technology or procedure? Be focused when you describe this need. Next is your author credentials. Be sure to include the usual items like your CV, H-index, your standing at your institution, positions in societies, all of those things. But in addition to this, if there's something that sets you apart, add this as well. Are you especially savvy at social media and have connections for marketing of your title? Do you have a keen passion for the area and volunteer in it? Have you won a teaching award? Let all of these things be seen in the proposal. Audience. It's important to identify your core audience. Without this focus, the scope of a book will be much too large. Many people think that putting in a large audience stands in their favor, but it's not true. So let me give you an example. If you're proposing a book on heart disease, you don't want to list cardiology researchers, cardiac surgeons, cardiologists, and nurses as your core market. It may be true that all of these people may have an interest in certain parts of the book, but the core needs of a researcher, a surgeon, a nurse, and a doctor in this field are all very different. And your book should focus on one audience and reach it well. Geography. It's important to mention if you feel the content will be more well received in certain areas of the world over others, and explain why that is. It's also important to keep a global perspective in the book. If you're editing a volume, look for a large geographical spread in your contributors to make sure you're getting a world view of the topic. Competition. Many people think that saying there's no competition for a book is a good thing. It can actually be a red flag for a publisher. After all, with all the content that's out there, there must be a reason why there's no one publishing in this space. It's better to find the books on the market that cover the subject either in whole or part and include them in your proposal. This shows that there's an interest in this topic area in the market. You should show the strengths and weaknesses of your competition and state how your book will be differentiated. Manuscript specifications and timeline. You should describe the specifications of your book. When you close your eyes and you imagine your published book, what does it look like? Is it a 6x9 handbook? Is it 8.5 by 11? Is it soft cover, hardcover? What types of art is going to be in there? Are there figures, flow charts, tables, images? Do the images need to appear in color so the reader can understand the meaning of the content? All of these specifications should be considered and outlined in your proposal. And finally, you should include a schedule outlining when you expect to have the final manuscript in its final form. Now that you're ready to write your first-rate proposal, here's a resource you can use. And you can download a book proposal form and submit it at this site. Note that the proposal instructions are about halfway down the page. And while you can do all of this on your own, I do highly recommend reaching out to the publisher to determine who your acquisitions editor is in your area, because a quick chat with them could save you a lot of time. The acquisitions editor has most likely already done market research in the area you're thinking about, and they're aware of trends and current publications and can probably provide early guidance on the topic, as well as the trends that are going on and the competition. So this can help you complete some of the major parts of your proposal before you even get started, just by having this conversation. In addition, some acquisitions editors have their own subject-specific proposal forms that they prefer. And knowing this upfront could save you time answering additional questions after your initial proposal is submitted. So now that you've got your proposal ready, you can go ahead and submit. The book proposal goes through several phases before final approval. First, the proposal is submitted to the acquisitions editor. The acquisitions editor will review it and may have some additional questions or additional information that needs to be filled out. Once the acquisitions editor is satisfied with the proposal, they're going to send it for peer review. Peer review can take anywhere from 2 weeks or more, and during this time, the acquisitions editor solicits the reviews from the market, which are then compiled together. They then create an editorial analysis with highlighted requests for changes on the scope of the content if it's needed. The editorial analysis is then reviewed by the author and editor, and a revised proposal is created together. Once both parties are happy with the scope of the content of the book, the proposal is officially proposed to the publisher and finally approved. Next, you'll need to have a contract to make the project official. Up until this point, without the contract signed, neither party had an obligation to one another, and everything is considered in the investigative stage. Specific terms of the contract may vary, but all contracts will contain some key points. All of the contracts are delivered for electronic signature through DocuSign. DocuSign is our fully secure online system that allows for fast and compliant signing of publishing agreements. A final manuscript due date will be specified within the contract, and it is critical for you to maintain this date. Copyright will be held by Elsevier. Guidelines for the reuse are clearly outlined in the contract, and Elsevier offers reasonable terms for the reuse with permission. This copyright is important for two reasons. First, the dissemination of your content globally, but it also protects your works against piracy, allowing Elsevier to investigate and pursue violations. And finally, the editor and author royalties and complementary copies will be outlined in the contract. So once you've signed on the dotted line, it's time to get this book moving. The next phase is manuscript development. During this phase, an editorial project manager is assigned to your project, and they're an expert in manuscript development and will be able to guide you throughout the process. They're going to provide you with detailed author guidelines. And your manuscripts gets delivered in our ELSA authoring platform. And this is something I am very excited about. ELSA is some of the most exciting technology to hit the publishing industry for a long time. And it is exclusive to Elsevier. ELSA is an easy to use online end-to-end content creation platform. It is used by the authors, editors, contributors, and Elsevier staff. It allows you to write and in real time view your pages. So imagine writing your manuscript and with the click of a button, you can see it completely laid out in pages. This is amazing technology that allows you to see what used to take a matter, you can see it in minutes, what used to take a matter of weeks to see. So anyone who's done a book in the past knows that this is amazing technology. The platform allows for the editing, seamless collaboration, and tracking of all chapters, which of course is especially important in those edited works. And the best part is that it inherently creates richer content. Behind the scenes, it gives suggested tagging, linking, and structuring for your content. Some of the manuscript elements you might be asked to include are your final list of contributors. And of course, this is unique to edited works, as authored works won't have chapter contributors. A sample chapter prior to final manuscript to check the format and style. Make sure that you're production ready. And this is especially important in those authored works where there's only one person responsible for every chapter. You're going to have all your text, equations, tables, references, keywords, abstracts, art, all of the things you're used to thinking about when you think about a manuscript. Also, any third-party permissions. At this time, you're also going to review your cover image and your back cover copy to make sure that your cover is telling the story of your book to the customer. There's also some additional items that you may want to include, like your preface, foreword, glossary, any appendices. So now that your manuscript is completely done, it's time to move on to production. The production cycle has 4 key areas. There's copy editing, proofreading, indexing, and manufacturing. As the book author or editor, you're going to be responsible to review the copy edit and accept and reject those changes. You also have the opportunity to review the book's index, which will be prepared by a professional indexer. The entire process usually takes anywhere between 3 and 6 months. And of course, can vary on the size of the book as well as the complexity of the title. So now that you understand the process all the way through production, let's just take one more poll. And this one is whether or not you prefer books in print or online.
Stacy, could I ask a question while we wait?
Sure.
We're receiving a lot of questions about converting a thesis or dissertation into a book. Is it possible?
Yeah, a thesis is a great way to get an idea for a book, but we will not just turn a thesis into a book. So the ideas within your thesis can be a jumping off point for coming up for a good idea for a proposal for a book, but we will not just take a thesis and do it as a book. I recommend if someone is looking to publish their thesis to look to university presses. They may do that, but that's not something that we do.
Thanks so much. Shall we check with Khaled if there's any questions on YouTube? While we're waiting, we have a minute more before we end the poll.
Yeah, there is one question that's been recurring also on publishing book chapters. How does one find how to find a book project that would match his work and thus be able to submit a book chapter to?
So the best way to get involved with that is to reach out to the acquisitions editor in your area and have a conversation with them and talk to them about how you would like to review proposals and submit chapters. And what they can do is they're a great resource to connect you with the right people who are currently writing in that area and connect the two of you so that you can talk about submission for a book chapter.
Thanks so much,
Perfect.
Stacy.
Thank you.
Of course.
The poll results are up.
Thanks, Dineshri.
It looks
Okay.
like the majority of folks, almost 70% prefer books print. Online came in at 10% and no preference at 21%. So this audience prefers a print book. That is my preference as well. But the good news is when you publish with Elsevier, we provide print and online versions of the book.
Thank you, Stacy.
Sure. So our delivery methods include first that traditional print, and these titles are sold online from sites like the Elsevier store, Amazon, and other third-party providers, as well as in brick and mortar shops. And they are produced using print-on-demand services, meaning that individual copies are printed to order. And this is actually very good news for you. It means that your title has greater longevity and will not go out of print. Second, we have ebooks, and these are available on the same online sites like the Elsevier store and Amazon, and ordered in the same way. And finally, book content is indexed on notable names like SciVal, Scopus, and ScienceDirect. So no matter what format, we make sure that your content can find the customer. So now that your book is in the market, it's time for marketing. In addition to our full support sales team, Elsevier has a novel approach to book author marketing. And we've moved away from that product-focused marketing campaign to a new audience-driven campaign. And we made this move due to the fact that customers use several products over the course of their career. And it makes it much better to market all products to an audience instead of marketing a product individually to an audience. This customer-centric marketing benefits our authors because it focuses on driving product usage through the customer's entire marketing life cycle, rather than focusing on marketing just one individual product at a certain select point in time, which in the past was usually just twice, at pre and at publication. Our lifecycle marketing program provides updates to the author and market throughout the entire process, and it includes things like book release information, book reviews or announcements on any awards that were received, as well as a quarterly newsletter which gives hints and tips and marketing advice for authors and editors. Elsevier also provides event support in the form of booths at major scientific meetings, and we also do promotional materials at some of the smaller ones. Finally, we have a large social media presence. We have a SciTech Connect proprietary blog, which allows our authors and editors to share content with their audience even after their book publication. We maintain over 22 subject-specific communities, and this is across 68 accounts, and we reach more than 3.2 million fans on Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those usual suspects. But most importantly, we ensure abstracting and indexing databases are optimized for search and discoverability to make your content discoverable. It's my hope that this presentation has given you insight into not only why books are important, but that there has never been a better time to be involved in writing a book than right now. With your new insight into the content acquisition strategy and a full understanding of that entire book publishing cycle, you're now ready to go author or edit a book. Thank you, and we're going to open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Stacey, for that. And I think everyone has found that very, very enlightening. I would now like to call upon Chris, who is Christina Guilford, who is monitoring the questions. And I see there's a number of questions on the Zoom chat. And she would now pose the questions to you, Stacey, and if you could address those questions to the audience, please.
Hello. Yes, so we had a number of questions curious about the types of books and the kinds of books to be published and what the basis of those books should be. So one was, are there exceptions to the kinds of books to be published, and must it be a research work?
So for the division that I work in, those are research works. But as I mentioned earlier, Elsevier has many different divisions with many different types of books. So, I mentioned earlier about, the monographs and the serials and series, and we do all kinds of books. If you're looking to do a novel, we're not the right publisher for you. But if you have, an academic book, there's probably someone at Elsevier that we can put you in touch with that will be interested.
Okay, and then I know we've had a number of questions, and I realize that you've covered this in this, but just to reinforce it to everybody about the cost associated with publishing a book with Elsevier.
So there are no costs to the author or editor or chapter contributors for publishing a book with Elsevier. In fact, our authors and editors are paid a royalty on the percentage of sales of the book. The only time that you'll get into a fee-based program is if you are doing open access, and that's not the publishing program that I talked about today.
Okay, and then another question we had was about the review process and peer review of books, and explaining what the differentiates between books and journals as far as the review process.
So the book review process happens during the proposal phase. So this happens before the manuscript is written. So you will write your proposal, we will send it out, and we will get that feedback from the market at that time. Then we will complete the scope of the book together, the acquisitions editor and the author. And after that time, it's time to write the book. So it's a little bit different from the journal process where the review is done to the actual article.
All right, and then another question we had is about interdisciplinary and what do we mean when we're talking about interdisciplinary research, and explaining that a little bit more in depth.
It's the fact that most people are not working in silos anymore. So if you are a cardiology researcher and you're doing research on the heart, you're also going to have to know about valves and possibly materials and possibly AI and possibly all of these other areas that you didn't go to school for and you haven't been studying and you haven't been using in your lab forever. So you need foundational knowledge in those other areas. That cardiology research is going to need to know about materials, but not everything about materials, only what they need to know to get the research done that they're doing.
Okay, and then another question we had is about determining the market needs of the audience, and how do people who are considering a book proposal, how would they determine the market needs of their audience, or what should they be considering when submitting a proposal?
Yeah, there's a few ways that you can do that. The first one I would say is to examine why you thought there was a need for this book in the first place, because most likely you're part of your own target audience, especially if you're writing a book for the motivation of filling that unmet need. So if there was something missing and you now are filling that, well, there's your motivation and your rationale for writing the book right there. Another thing you can do is talk to your colleagues or talk to folks who are in your target audience about what is missing. And this is something that acquisitions editors do quite a bit. We talk to our customers and we ask them what type of content is missing, what gaps exist, and have those conversations. And in that way, you're going to find that unmet need and you're going to find your rationale for writing that book.
Okay, and then now we've got a question. What is an acquisitions editor? We throw that out all the time.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Title, and
So,
the audience probably has no idea what that is.
acquisitions editors are the folks who commission content. So those commissioning lists that I was talking about earlier, the acquisition editor owns that list, and they are the people who hit the streets, get on the phones, send the emails, and talk to people about writing books. They are the people that will contact you, work with your proposal, send your proposal out for review. They will contract your book. They will work with you through all of those phases of the cycle.
And then we've also had a number of questions about length of book, and also how long. I know you did discuss the schedule to a certain degree, but how long does it take to get a book published, and what is the standard length? What should people be considering? How many chapters, as far as the structure of the book?
So when I work with authors and they ask me the question about length, I always say, I don't care what length your book is. I want you to make the best book that you can possibly make. So you look at the contents, you are the subject matter expert. You tell me what needs to be in this book in order to make it the best it can be. Once you tell me that, I'll tell you how many pages I think it's going to be. That said, a lot of people can't work without guidelines. So I generally say that for a first edition, we're looking at about 300 pages. Finished book. How long does it take? Generally, from the time you start a conversation with an acquisitions editor to the time you have a finished book in your hand is going to be about a year to a year and a half. Now, that's just a general rule about how things go. I've seen things go much faster where it's been, 3 months from conversation to book to, 4 years. So there's everything in between.
Stacey, there's been a common question that's also been coming up. It's regarding costing. Maybe you if you can just touch on that and about costs of publications.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Theron? You cut out for a minute.
There's been a common question that's been coming up I've seen on the chat, and that's the cost of publications. Could you enlighten the audience about costings around this?
Is this referring to our list price of the book, like what we price the book at, or costs that people have to pay to us?
People would have to pay.
Yeah, there is no payment to the publisher for publishing a book with Elsevier. There is no payment. We pay the authors and editors. They get a royalty on the sales of the book.
Another question that's come up is about language and editing and helping people with cleaning up the writing and what that process looks like for us on the books publishing side.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's another one we get quite a bit. And I tell my authors that not to worry so much about that. We do a complete copy edit with a professional copy editor. We also have proofreading, and all of that is cleaned up for you. You are in charge of the subject matter and pulling together the book and making it the best it can be. We are in charge of all of that grammatical and layout and all of that stuff that's part of the publisher's responsibility. So don't worry so much about that. Worry more about the subject matter.
And we've gotten quite a few questions about reuse of materials, whether it's from a journal article. I know you've addressed the thesis question, and people want to have a little bit better understanding of where they can pull content in. Can they cite from other books when they're writing their book? Could you touch upon that too, please?
Yeah, you absolutely can cite previously published works. They have to be cited and they have to be referenced. That said, a good book isn't made up entirely of just referenced works from other places. We wouldn't put a book out like that, but there certainly is a place within a book to reference other published material. So as long as it is referenced and it is cited, we can use it.
Okay. And does the book have to be finished at the proposal stage, or can it still be an iteration?
No, actually, many acquisitions editors would prefer that it was not done at that stage because we haven't done the review. So there could be substantial changes that need to be made to the scope in order to meet the needs of the market. And we would want to be able to work with you on that. And it's a lot easier to do that before the book is written than after. So you do not need to have anything written at the time of the proposal.
Okay, and then we have another question here about chapter authors and whether they get any kind of recognition. How are they recognized in an edited work?
Chapter author names do appear on the chapters.
And another question surrounding whether the book has to be purchased in its entirety or whether chapters are available separately.
We have the entire books available on ScienceDirect, and on there, people can get the individual chapters.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions that?
Yes, there are some questions we're receiving from YouTube.
Okay.
One of the questions is, does Elsevier publish into social sciences and humanities? Elsevier is very well known in STM, and people were inquiring more about our social sciences and humanities publishing.
Yeah, and we do have a section of our website that is dedicated to that area. So we do both humanities and social sciences. It's not in the division that I'm a part of, but.
And also another question on publishing textbooks specifically.
Okay.
How do we handle textbook publishing in general?
And we have the same workflow. So you would put together your proposal and send it in, and there is a group of acquisitions editors that work on our textbooks.
So in general, can you comment on what's the main difference or the motivation for publishing a book compared to a textbook?
Sure. I think obviously the difference is that when you are doing a reference book, your audience is going to be researchers, academics, you know, possibly students, and that area. And when you're doing that, it's a much higher level of book. When you're doing a textbook, you're targeting educating people who are still in school, and you are going to have a lot more pedagogy in your book. So you're going to need more images, you're going to need more of those things that earlier learners are going to need to be able to understand the content. Perhaps a little bit more of a laborious process in the textbook than there is in the reference book. Depends on, you know, your own personal style and what you enjoy. But certainly, you know, the market is very different. So the words that you use, the way that you explain things are going to be different in a reference book than they would be in a lower level textbook.
The last question was in general about Elsevier publishing in other languages. I know that for journals, there are a few partner journals that we publish in French, for example, German, Italian, Spanish, and the sorts. What about books?
Yeah, we do. And what we do is we need a need within a certain geographical location with a certain language in mind. And then you can contact your acquisitions editor about that. First, the book is published in English. And then after that need is established, we work with licensing rights to that country to be able to publish it in that other language. And all of that is outlined in your contract so you understand what those terms are.
And another question on single authorship versus multiple authorship. How is multiple authorship handled other than just not just for people handling the entire project together as a proposal, or do we do some matchmaking at times? And how would it differ in general?
Okay, I want to make sure I fully understand the question. So first of all, the differences. So again, the editor is the person who has the book and has chapter contributors. The author is the person who writes it themselves. So with the author, if you have co-authors, these are people who are going to be writing the book from start to finish, but they're going to be doing it together as a team, or maybe 3 of them, or whatever the case might be. Generally, all of that is discussed up front during the proposal about who's going to handle what chapters, how they're going to handle reviewing each other's chapters, and you put out a plan ahead of time during the proposal stage to determine what that's going to look like. The same for editors. So if you have editors, these are the people who have chapter contributors sending it in. You would have a conversation with your acquisitions editor and those editors, and you would talk about who's going to manage what chapters and keep track of that. And, you know, that makes the heavy lifting not so hard because you may have, you know, 20 chapters in the book, and now, you know, you have 2 editors now, so they both need only look at 10 chapters rather than 20. Both work with both authors and editors, having multiple authors and editors. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, I believe it does. And
Okay.
we will also be checking if we get any follow-ups on this.
Stacy?
Another question on just a second, sorry. Just as a question, so when you discuss that royalties part, this does not include chapter authors, right?
It does not. That is correct.
Stacy, we have, does Elsevier have developmental agenda for African contexts? Does it support grounded research in Africa?
Well, Elsevier has done a lot of research efforts in Africa. 2018, we did an in-depth analysis of the continent's research, and we found that there was a lot of promising developments and came up with some strategies for continued improvement. And we do have an entire summary of that online, which I can share with people. Some of the highlights are, Elsevier's foundation, Research Without Borders, which has a volunteer program, and also partners with the National Institute of Health and National Library of Medicine to support the African Journal Partnership Program. And more than 20 Elsevier publishers, including Mary Ann, who gave the journals presentation this week, worked with African health journals in 9 different countries, contributing 48 weeks of Elsevier time to boost the visibility and impact of the continent's journals. In addition, we support the Epicenter's Research Center with over $100,000 a year, developing African-driven health research center to help find African solutions for the biggest health crises that are facing the region. The Elsevier Foundation also partners with the Organization for Women in Science for the developing world, and this is to support emerging women leaders in science and technology. And each year we have awards for women scientists throughout the developing world. We also have a Gender in the Global Research Landscape report, which has provided evidence-based examination of research performance worldwide and through a gender lens. And it's led to discussions with researchers and policymakers across all of Africa. And we've already seen suggestions around specific funds for early career female scientists to leverage high impact associations with researchers. So those are some of the things that we've done for research in Africa.
And we had some other questions about being able to submit chapters for an edited work and what that process looks like as far as recruitment of the chapter authors for an edited work.
So if you are an editor and you're looking for chapter authors, is that the question?
Or if somebody wants to be a chapter author and just explaining to them how that process works as far as somebody who's an editor, being recruited to do that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can do that. The first I suggest is reaching out to the acquisitions editor for that area and telling them that you have an interest in this topic area, and you can get involved in reviewing proposals at that time and get better known and connected with different people in the field by doing that. And then if you have an idea for a book chapter, you can also mention that to them, and they can either connect you with someone who's already writing on that topic, or commission a book that you can then be involved with.
And also we've had a number of questions as far as items put into the book and the content and reuse from other sources and what support we might, what that process is for permissions and so forth.
Our permissions site is very easy to use, and you go to it, it's an online site, and you put in the information that you want to reuse, and the permission generally comes within a few days. It's a very easy automated process.
And we've had, maybe at the end of the session, we could maybe post someplace the link to where people can submit proposals and check for who their acquisitions editors might be. We have a number of those questions as well.
The book proposal link is in the slides, and those will be posted.
And we put it on the chat for people to see, everyone, on both YouTube and Zoom.
Stacy, sorry, you can go ahead. Sorry
No,
to
go
interrupt.
ahead.
Just wanted to ask, it's not really a question, but we received a comment about um, someone feeling discouraged because of a long review process. And the comment was, could there be time limits put onto the review process, like 3 months, for example? If you could give us your insight into this, what do you think about this?
Sure. I would disagree with a time limit on reviews because I think that reviews are a really important part of the process. If we are not getting validated reviews from the market that tell us that this book is needed, it's wanted, and it's covering all of the things that the market wants, the book is not going to be a success. And let's face it, the author and the publisher both want this book to be a success. So it's really important to have the review process. And I understand that sometimes it does take a really long time. And that usually has to do with, believe it or not, the time of year. So if you are having academics do your reviews, if it's a busy time of school year, sometimes it can take an exceptionally long time. If you send in your manuscript and it happens over a holiday, well, we're not going to get anyone to review it, during the holiday. There's a whole host of factors. And certainly right now in these unprecedented times of COVID, we're finding that everything is taking a lot longer than it used to. So there's a lot of factors, but no, I would not recommend putting a limit on the time for the reviews.
Thanks, Stacey. And also another common question, the order of the author names. If you could comment on how that order is defined.
That's determined at the time of the proposal, and it's a discussion that you'll have with your acquisitions editor.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
And then we also had a question about, several questions about the guidelines for preparation of chapters and also about ELSA. So perhaps informing everybody about how that looks or works and what those are.
Yeah, so when I was talking about that production process, I talked about that EPM, that editorial project manager that's assigned to the project. And at the time that they're assigned, they're sending you your guidelines for using ELSA. They're sending you your guidelines for manuscript preparation on what types of references to use, all of those nitty-gritty questions about putting the manuscript together. That editorial project manager is the expert on manuscript development, and they're going to have all of those guidelines, all of that information, and they'll be able to walk you through that process as you're creating your manuscript.
And somebody had asked about, could we just briefly go over again what the steps are for creating that book proposal again and going through the whole process from proposal submission to publication?
Sure. If I'm getting so just that entire book publishing cycle?
Right. You submit a proposal and then what happened?
So the publisher solicits a book proposal, or you send one in per their strategy. After that, the AE is going to review the proposal and refine it. And they're going to send it out for peer review. Then the author and editor is going to respond to that review, and they're going to work with the acquisitions editor to revise it as needed. It's going to go through that approval and contract stage. Then we're going to commission the chapter authors or the writing, depending on if it is an edited work or an authored work. Then you're going to go through the manuscript being submitted to production. Then you're going to publish. Then you're going to global distribution, sales, and marketing.
Great. And And is there, there were several people who asked about, is there a maximum number of authors that we can have involved with a book? And probably what's the distinction between, probably better would be to explain the distinction between what would be edited and what would be authored, and what that looks like between those two.
So if someone is a subject matter expert in their area and they have good interdisciplinary understanding, they are a good candidate for authoring a book, doing it on their own. If someone is writing a comprehensive book and there's certain areas they would like to include, but they're not necessarily comfortable with including those areas, it's best to go to an editing format where they can write the chapters that they are most comfortable with and are squarely fitted within their remit. And then they can ask contributors to do the other chapters where they don't have as much experience.
And then also several people have asked about, is there a maximum number of books that you can publish per year? Or is there a limit on the number of books that you can publish per year?
There isn't a limit on the number of books you can publish a year. But it's a tough task. And I think this question is not asking about, does Elsevier have a number? It's asking if a person themselves, individual, has a number that they can publish a year. I have never seen an author be able to do more than 2 books in a year, and that's a pretty rare occurrence, just because it is so time consuming and a labor of love. So generally I would say not more than 1, but there are no hard fast rules on that.
Great. And then is there any other advice that you can give to somebody who is a young researcher who's considering writing a book or would like to start kind of planning for the future, potentially authoring a book?
Make a lot of connections in your field and talk to people about what's missing. Some of the most successful books are the ones that fill that unmet need. So if you can identify what that need is and you can find a way to fill it, you're going to have a successful book career. The other thing I would say is it's never too early to start your proposal. So if you get a proposal form and, even if it takes you a couple of years to finish it or a year to finish it, you start jotting down the ideas you have, the conversations you have with people. I mean, treat this as any other research project that you would do. And collect all of that data, and all of that is going to help to make the best book that you can possibly make.
There was one question we received about the book authors page. People are saying that the listed subjects, the featured subjects on that page are for STM topics, and they were asking. Yeah, and they were asking in specific about the social sciences and humanities.
Yeah, I have to provide a link for that. I don't have it off the top of my head. I have it in my notes. I think Chris, I think it is in the notes if you can cut and paste that.
Okay, I will look that up.
Thank you.
And there is another question on Scopus indexation for books. Do you want to touch some base on it? I can speak on the Scopus part of things a bit.
Yeah, thank you.
So people were asking about Scopus indexation, and Scopus does index different kinds of content, including journals, conference proceedings, especially for engineering and physical sciences, but it is expanding. And with books, it started basically with social sciences and humanities, but it's expanding to include other topics, including medicine, for example, and some others. The criteria for getting a book indexed into Scopus, I can share the link with you. for how Scopus handles indexation in general. And you can also check it to know what kind of books you would expect on Scopus database.
Is there any other questions?
Just perhaps about where does the check for copyright and for plagiarism, where does it fit into the process? And if you could elaborate more on those checks as a question from the Zoom box.
Sure, yeah, there's a couple of things that can be done. We have, of course, plagiarism software that manuscripts are put through so that we can identify any areas. But the biggest onus is really on the authors and the editors to make sure that they're doing good academic work and not plagiarizing or taking other people's copyrighted material. We do have, those checks like that software that we can use that can do that. But this really is an academic endeavor, and we expect people to act accordingly and not plagiarize and not take copyrighted material.
And we have a question too. What would constitute a book proposal being rejected by us?
There could be a lot of reasons. So it can go all the way down the line. So a poorly put together, not well thought out proposal, of course, is going to get rejected. We also may consider if you don't have a real market need, that's another big indication that it really hasn't been thought well out. Some of the things that I talked about in my talk also, where you've just sort of lumped this huge audience into your, and just included everyone under the sun as the audience for your book. That's a clear indication that it's not focused and it's not going to be successful in the market. As well, when I was talking about that competition, a red flag is if you say that there's absolutely no competition for this book, that's highly unlikely. And there's got to be at least some book out there that at least covers it in part or whole. So we want to see that completely filled out. So basically not taking the proposal seriously and not really answering those questions within it is going to get it rejected outright. More likely, if you have some of that missing information, you won't be rejected outright. You will have a conversation with the acquisitions editor and work further to hone that proposal so that it is appropriate. Obviously, if there was, bad information in the proposal, something that's, in our world, not scientifically founded, that would automatically be rejected. But, if you're bringing forward a book idea and you filled out the proposal and it just isn't quite up to par, that acquisitions editor won't reject it outright. They'll work with you on it.
And then also we had a question about piracy of our books and what steps and measures we take to kind of combat piracy of our content.
We partner with a piracy firm, and whenever any piracy is found by either our customers, our acquisitions editors, or our authors, it is reported to them. And usually within 24 hours, a takedown notice is issued. Of course, they have to investigate it first, but it's generally around a 24-hour turn time.
Okay, and then somebody else had a question about in the book proposal form itself, and when an author an individual is putting in their profile, what types of information are you looking for as far as that profile?
So it would be the same as I talked about earlier, where we're looking for that typical stuff that you put, like your CV and your H index, any affiliations that are important, any of that stuff, all of that should be included. But in addition to that, I talked a little bit about things that kind of make you stand out and make you unique should also be included. So if you do volunteer work in that area, or if you've received any awards, or if you're, I think I used the example of being exceptionally media savvy, social media savvy, all of those things that kind of make up who you are and why you would be a good author.
And also, so if we have a first edition, what factors do we consider for looking at perhaps doing a second edition of a work?
What we look at for a second edition is a couple of factors. So the first thing is what's changed in the field. It's important not to just put out another book because it's time to put out another book. We need new content to update that book and to make it relevant for the market. So there has to be some sort of change, new information, new technologies, something to update within the book. Once that's established, we're going to look at the sales of the prior edition to make sure that it's a viable project for the company to continue with. And we're going to analyze that and have a conversation about that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Stacey, for that fantastic insight. And we've hoped everyone has found that beneficial. Thank you very much, Stacey, for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think we're really, really excited with the information you've passed on. And there's been a number of questions. We're sorry we could not answer everyone's questions, but we tried as far as possible to answer majority of the common theme questions as well. Stacey, I'm going to ask you now to stop sharing, then we would run the last end of the presentation, which is the last polling question, together with the end in terms of the downloading of your certification. Okay. So the last polling question before we move on is, please rate the publication workshop which you have attended. An excellent workshop, a good workshop, neutral, workshop needs improvement, or poor workshop. I would also like to take this time and opportunity while you are rating our workshop to please, for those of you who've had problems with our previous seminar, to please go back, and please note we have fixed the website and continue to try and download and access the certification process the way you did the last time. Please follow the instructions set out in the presentation together with the link we have provided. We urge the people to please download your certificate. Please read the guide how to download your certification. If you're facing any issues with downloading the last web publication certification and even today's, please revisit it the next day or the following day, as there would be high traffic. We also urge everyone to please subscribe to the Elsevier Africa YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page.
We're still having votes coming in.
Yeah, we also want to remind people that tomorrow we're going to be having our workshop on avoiding publishing in predatory journals. If they would like to join us, it's going to be, please correct me, it's going to be at 11 a.m. at GMT +2. So it's Amsterdam time at 11 a.m. If you want to join us, please, you can find the link on chat as well as on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Khalid. Dineshri, you would like to add something?
Yes, so the votes are in. I'm just going to share the results.
Great. So we have 62% that found we had an excellent publication workshop. 35% have said it was a good workshop, 3% neutral, and 1% say that the workshop needs improvement. But thank you once again for participating, ladies and gentlemen. We will now share with you the link to download the presentation together with the link to download your certification. We humbly request that you please read the instructions how to download the certification file. The website is bit.ly/ELSJUN3. That's the website you visit to download your presentation and to download your certification. Now you will require a code. I would like to also say thank you to all those who have participated, my team members, as well as our special guest, Stacy Masucci from the USA, who have enlightened us on the book publishing process and Elsevier author workshop. Thank you very much as well to our panelists who have also participated in the questions and in monitoring the inbox of the questions and the influx of questions. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again, for participating and being active on the chats. I'm your host, Thiren Mohan, Elsevier Solutions Sales Manager for eBooks from Africa, signing off and saying thank you, God bless, stay safe, and goodbye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.